Hello, I am Sinner, and today I'm going to be starting a new series. I'm going to call it the Leviathan Times series. Basically, I have been recently writing articles on Substack and then posting them, and I thought I'd turn them into videos for content's sake. Um, so here we go. This is the first article I wrote, and I'm going to talk about the same subject, but I'm not going to read it out. And that is the concept of political violence as a result of democracy. So, the basic premise of the article and what I want to talk about is the fact that if you live, well, first of all, I'll say this. Recently, there's been quite a bit of political violence in Western countries, especially in America. There's been violence, there was Charlie Kirk, there was the attempted assassination of Trump twice. Um, I believe, what was her name? Melissa Hortman or something like that. Was it either killed or attacked? Either way, there's been a lot of political violence. And it's this political violence, mostly, in my opinion, has been a result of democracy. Because when you look at the statistics, um, a lot of the Democrat and Republican parties will vote on the same thing. Like the vast majority of bills that come into the House of Representatives. I think that's what you guys in America call it, right? But the majority of them get passed unanimously. It's the same thing in Australia. The vast majority of the time, they agree, and it's the same agenda, whether it's right-wing government or left-wing government. But what happens is, because we live in a democracy, and in a democracy, the parties have to motivate you, they have to embolden you, they have to drive you to vote and to vote for them, especially in America where it's not necessary to vote. What we've seen is a sort of slow but steady um, stepping up of the stakes. Think about it in terms of like a drug, right? If you drink coffee like I do, you know, at first, maybe to give you that edge, that propaganda edge to win the election, you need to be a little bit inflammatory. You need to be a little bit exaggeratory. You need to make one or two fake promises and one or two mud throwing slanders that aren't true. Right? That's stage one. Um, but obviously, if you do that enough, it wears out. People aren't really emboldened by that. So then you have to add a little bit more of the inflammatory um, language. More of the other side is evil. The other side is bad. We're the good guys. They're the bad guys. Democracy ends with them. You know, I remember before the election with Trump in 2020, the right was saying if we don't elect Trump, there's going to be a gorillion immigrants coming to America, and there's never ever ever going to be a Republican government again, and it will be literally, we'll get socialism because we'll just be perma Democrats forever. And then obviously the Democrats were saying oh well, Trump's a fascist, a Nazi, and if you elect Trump, that's going to be the end of democracy in America. So you had both sides arguing that it's literally over if you don't vote for us. It's literally over. So what happens is um, the both sides are at this point now where they have to make these really insane, radical claims about democracy and the other side, how the other side is literally going to end society as we know it, and they're all literally insane or idiots or evil or a mix of all of those things. And because people have been tricked into thinking the stakes are so high, they take radical action. They think, oh, well, if this guy gets into power, it's going to be the end of democracy. So, and he's literally mustache man. So I'm going to go and do what I've been told is what everyone would do to mustache man, which is kill him before he gets into power. Or, I'm going to make sure that this person doesn't get to pass that law because that law is going to literally end democracy, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, and that's a big problem. And then the other thing which I talk about in my article is the 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 fact that Protestantism, and this is something I'm kind of parroting Eric von Kuhnhaupt-Leden here, but Protestantism as a religion, and post-Vatican II Catholicism as well, to be fair, but Protestantism as a religion is very relativistic because it's ecumenical. So in a Protestant paradigm, it's easier to, tolerate people who you see as incorrect. It's easier to tolerate people who you don't agree with because you're used to it. You're used to saying, well, I don't agree with the Anglicans as a Presbyterian or a Baptist, but they're still Christian. Well, I don't agree with the Methodists as I don't know, a Pentecostal, but they're all still Christian. Yada 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 yada. You get the point. And the thing is that's sort of a necessary aspect of democracy. One of the things that you can look at throughout history is, well, today there's not an Islamic country that's a democracy. In the past, before Vatican II, there wasn't really a successful Catholic democracy, and the most lasting and well preserved democracies, for the most part, have been, with the exception of San Marino or something, have been Protestant countries like Switzerland, the US, the UK, yada yada yada, and they're all Protestant. And the thing is now American society is becoming dramatically less Protestant. It's becoming dramatically more atheist or Catholic or pagan or Islamic or whatever it may be, but it's certainly less Protestant. And part of that is I think you're seeing a lot of ironically, you're seeing absolutism come back from atheists as well, which is the funniest thing, Everyone can see how weird it is when an atheist is critiquing, someone's moral worldview while at the same time arguing for moral subjectivism. But moral absolutism, generally speaking, in practice, consequently, is back. And what that means is the idea of simply tolerating something you disagree with is becoming less and less appealing to people in our generation, which also plays into political violence being common in a democracy. And that's all I really have to say. That's basically everything I talked about in the article. But yeah, to wrap it all up, if you keep telling people that, their life's going to end and they're going to be in literally 1984 or some other dystopia unless you vote for them, if you keep, spewing that propaganda out to the people, eventually people will be radicalized enough that they're going to be willing to commit political violence for the sake of, the right or the left, as dumb as that is. And the other thing, which is leading to political violence, another factor, I'm not saying that these are the only two factors, by the way. I'm not making that claim, but these are factors that are contributing. The other problem is that because America and Western countries in general have strayed away from Protestant Anglo-Saxon culture, it means that they're less tolerant of democracy because it was really Protestant culture, libertine Protestant culture, that was conducive for democracy, and because that's going away, democracy is going away with it. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. Anyway, that's all. I'm Sinar, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.